person for a 3-day seminar, but when we bring financial specialists in and make it free to the public, the people don't value what's free. Amen. So it does not matter. I'm just going to believe God and trust God that the people who are here is exactly who God intended for tonight, and we are going to roll on. I know that what is coming is completely invaluable. It is priceless. And we want to make sure that with time we give you everything that the speaker has. So without further ado, we are going to open up with a brief song from our choir, or as you all can see, we more have a quartet. But trust me, you will be amazed at what God has done with 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread. God has truly used 7 people to feed thousands. We have been in places where there have been thousands of people, and the Holy Ghost, not because of who we are, but because of who He is and the God that we serve. God is into multiplying, and He has multiplied these babies' voices and these young turn, if you will, to Joshua chapter 1. We're going to read Joshua chapter 1, and we're going to go down to verse 8. Joshua chapter 1, starting at verse 1. Those who are able, if you will, please stand in reverence for the reading of the word. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I do give to them, even to the children of Israel. Every place that the sole of your foot shall tread upon, that I have given unto you, as I have said unto Moses, from the wilderness and this Lebanon, even unto the great river, the river Euphrates, all the land of the Hittites, and unto the great sea towards the going down of the sun shall be your coast. There shall not be any man be able to stand before thee all the days of thy life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with thee. I will not fail thee nor forsake thee. Be strong and of good courage, for unto this people shalt thou divide for an inheritance the land, which I swear unto their fathers to give them. Only be thou strong and very courageous, that thou mayest observe to do according to all the law, which Moses my servant commanded thee. Turn not from it to the right hand or to the left, that thou may prosper whithersoever thou goest. Key verse for tonight. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. We bless God for the reading, the hearing, and especially the doing of his word. Let us have a quick word of prayer. Dear God, we thank you for who you are. God, you said that you would give to us everywhere that we would stand. God, we understand that there are things that you want to give, but we have to be in the right place and position to be able to receive them. God, I pray right now that as these people are here, that we would all become an Acts people and be in one mind, on one accord, and be able to accomplish some great things through the Holy Spirit in which you have given us the free reign and liberty. Father God, we come right now. I know that we are here for a financial meeting, but I rebuke the spirit of Satan as he tries to come into this place and tear apart what you have put together. God, you said what you have put together, let us asunder. And it's not just dealing with husbands and wives, but anything that you have put together. God, Satan only wants to come to steal, kill, and destroy, and we bind him right now in the name of Jesus. We cast him out of our systems, of our microphones, of our speakers, of our cords. He has no reign in this place. God, we speak now as our speaker prepares to come and give us what you have given unto him. God, we lift him up before you, that you would crown his head with wisdom and knowledge, that he would be able to give unto your people what you have for us. We thank you in the name of Jesus. We pray all of these things. Amen. 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 You can be seated in the presence of God very quickly. Quickly on this evening, testing one, all right. On this evening, I want to say a very special thank you for a couple of reasons. Two, on yesterday, I got word that the individual who we had been promoting and who was standing in for tonight as a pastor in Mississippi, he had death in his church and wasn't able to come. And we kind of went into panic mode, and as we begin to just feel some kind of way, the Holy Spirit says all things work together for the good of them who love God, who are called according to to his purpose. And then after that, he said, in all things give thanks, because this is the will of God concerning your life. I said, Lord, I don't see how. This is not what I had intended. And I had a meeting that was supposed to happen on last week. There was death. And with death, we went for the wake and the funeral services. And by chance, I had an opportunity to meet a man that I've been longing to meet for some time. I've heard of Pastor Bobo, but never had the opportunity to meet him. And when I met him, you expect one thing when you hear of people and their character. And I was looking for someone who I couldn't talk to. I'll be honest, that's what I was looking for. And what I found was a man who was humble in the Holy Spirit and willing to teach and impart. And we were supposed to try to meet last week, and it was last minute, and because it was last minute, I wasn't able to get on the agenda. So he said, well, how about next Tuesday? I said, well, next Tuesday would be perfect. Had no idea God knew what Tuesday was going to bring. So Tuesday morning, I get the phone call that the evangelist Pastor Stupid wouldn't be able to make it because, again, someone died. And I had the meeting with Pastor Bobo, and I was telling him everything that was happening. He said, you know, that's kind of my specialty. I'm good at what God has ordained me for. And I'm not catching on. I'm not catching because God says he's able to do exceeding abundantly above all that you could ask or think, according to the power that works within us. So I'm still, my mind is somewhere else. My wife told me before I left home, ask Pastor what he, I said, this last minute, I couldn't even get on the agenda last week for last minute. There's no way. My mind says it's inconceivable. But when we were walking out, and I said, Pastor, I have to get ready for this meeting tomorrow. And I said, I just have to tell you because I don't want to leave without being obedient. We're teaching, and the Spirit says to be submissive one to the other. And my wife said you need to do this. So out of obedience, my wife told me. Now, I know you can't, but my wife told me that I need to bring this up to you. He said, well, why do you think I gave you that information 30 minutes ago? I said, yes. He said, yes. I said, he said, what time and where? So I'm honored to be able to have one tonight. Now, before I bring him, I want to show you how God just does things. We said what we wanted to do and how we wanted to get out, and we've been trying to find ways to get on the air, and God gave us an opportunity by email to find a radio personality who has been no stranger to St. Louis for many years. And we have contacted and have made acquaintances and a spiritual connection with our own St. Louis Evangelist Mary Tillman, 95.5 radio station. And I said, I asked one of our newest, she just said, Pastor, I want to do some work, but I work real good behind the scenes. I said, well, I need you to contact us. And I contacted. And here's the contact information. And because of the work of Sister Hardeman, we were able to contact Evangelist Tillman. And she is here on tonight. So before we bring up our speaker for tonight, I wanted to give Evangelist Tillman, who has been speaking on behalf of New Jerusalem. The last 2 weeks all over the air, Jerusalem has been aired for what we have going on. So if you all will, I would like to bring up our own Evangelist Mary Tillman to give us just a few words.
I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. Jerusalem number 2. I got really excited, put it on the church calendar, and of course I talked about it because I know Daddy. And you know, the fruit doesn't fall too far from the tree. So I knew he had good rooting, and I had no problem because I remember when this church was built, when Reverend Conley was the pastor. So I go back a long way. See, I'm a Kenlock girl, so I know about Conley being here before. And so the God has been good to all of us. I'm here to learn and see what's going on and to make new friends. You know, if you don't go and meet new friends, you stay in a rut. You can get stagnant by not reaching out and mingling with other folk. Now, I was supposed to be at Olivet, but Deacon Allen Blewett knows me very well, and he's going to be just fine. But the Spirit of the Lord said, you need to go to New Jerusalem tonight to be a part and make new friends. The Bible says if you want friends, you must show yourself. See, so if I want to be friends with New Jerusalem, it's my place to come to New Jerusalem, not wait on. They reached out and said, we're having this. It said free. I told everybody it was free. But sometimes we realize the value of free. We don't realize the value of free. So to all of you who are here tonight, all I'm going to say is I'll be talking about this Sunday morning, letting them know what they missed. Because that's why we stay broke, because we have to learn how to build up. So we have now because we ask now, and when you come and learn something, you can take it back in life. Because Mama always told me once you get it up here, can't nobody take it from you. But if there's nothing up here, you have nothing to go with and nothing to stand on. So like I said, I'm a Kenlock girl from Southern Mission, Kenlock. I learned what I learned in the church, and I am not ashamed of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for reaching out to me today to make it firm that I would be here tonight. I'm looking forward to hearing my friend, Dr. Bobo. God bless you. Oh, I am a member of Jerusalem Missionary Baptist Church in St. Louis City. My pastor is Reverend J.B. Garris, so I'm not just out here.
Amen. God bless you. You all put your hands together for our radio personality, Evangelist Mary Tillman. Amen. Amen. I want to give Pastor Bobo the time that is necessary to do this, and we are running about 20 minutes behind the original schedule. So I want to, if you all will allow me, and indulge me just for a minute or two, to read Pastor Bobo's bio. It was impressive to me. I want you all to know the caliber of people that God is bringing for you. Don't take advantage of the stallions that God has placed in your midst. Sometimes we treat our people like jackasses, and you don't understand that Mustangs have been injured with good. The Reverend Dr. Ronald L. Bobo Sr. is the pastor of the Westside Missionary Baptist Church in the city of St. Louis, Missouri. He is a pastor on the move for the Lord Jesus Christ. Westside Baptist, under his leadership, currently has one church and 2 locations. The church has 3 worship services and many outreach ministries to the community, the nation, and the world at large. Dr. Bobo is a native of Detroit, Michigan. He is a graduate of Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, where he graduated with a BS in music education. He later furthered his studies at the Southern Baptist Theological Seminary in Louisville, Kentucky. He graduated with a Master of Divinity and a Doctor of Ministry degree. He was a pastor of Faith Memorial Missionary Baptist Church in Louisville, Kentucky before coming to St. Louis. Dr. Bobo serves as the Executive Secretary of the Foreign Mission Board of the Missionary Baptist State Convention of Missouri. He has served as the past president of the Baptist World Alliance Youth Department, where he served faithfully ministering to youth around the world. He is currently active with the parent body of the Baptist World Alliance, giving leadership on global issues in the church. Dr. Bobo is also serving as the chairman of the Foreign Missions Board for the National Baptist Convention USA Incorporated. He is also the founder of Sharing Hope International Ministries, which ministers globally as well as locally, instructing, preaching, and ministering to the needy Through Sharing Hope International Ministry, he travels extensively to help the body of Christ through the preaching, teaching, prayer, and leading teams who serve in both medical and educational ministries. Pastor Bobo is active in the National Baptist Convention USA and in the National Baptist Congress of Christian Education. He has traveled extensively to Africa, Asia, Australia, the Caribbean, Europe, and both North and South America. Dr. Bobo's dream has always been to evangelize, sharing the love of Jesus Christ to those who have no hope around the world. He is married to his lovely Darlene Anita Bobo. Amen. God bless her. She is here. And they have 3 sons who are also active in ministry. I want you all to do me a favor. For this young man who have traveled to over 32 countries, I want you all to stand and thank God for not what's in Africa, but what's in Ferguson on today. To bring to us the word of God and the knowledge of none other than Reverend Dr. Bobo.
House, Pastor Adams Jr., and to the Archangel, Pastor Adams Sr., to the Radio Angel, my friend, to all the preachers, the laity, to my co-laborer, Evangelist Thurman. Amen. To each of you, our Father's children, we greet you in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus the Christ. He is King of Kings. He is the Lord of Lords, and he is worthy to be praised. Yes, he is. I'm so happy to be here, and I'm so glad that Pastor Adams reached out to me, and we might make this connection. You don't know what God is orchestrating when he puts people together. And so I just think it's the beginning of something beautiful. Amen, amen. I had no idea that when we talked on yesterday that he was going to talk about economic development. I said, oh my goodness, what a incredible thing, because that is something the Lord put in my heart as well. And I have with me this evening my lovely wife. On Tuesday it'll be 42 years. Amen. We thank and praise God for 42 years. Amen. And I tell people all the time, she don't like me to say it, but I'm just glad she still likes me. And I tell her she's duty bound to love me. The Lord wouldn't allow her to do nothing but love me, but she don't have to like me. Any married people here know what I'm talking about. So I'm grateful to God that she likes me too. Well, at least most of the time anyway, most of the time. Happy to have her, and we do have 3 sons, all 3 are preachers. And I am retiring from the pastorate in December of this year. And our oldest son, Reverend Charles Bobo, will be succeeding me. He's already on staff as my co-pastor and already voted in. So we're following in your footsteps, Pastor Adams. We're following in your footsteps. I was telling Pastor Adams Jr. that I surely want him to get a chance to meet my son. Hopefully they'll be able to have some kind of relationship as the years go on. Amen. Because anybody know that when you're going through life, especially if you're going through ministry, you need some friends. Yes, you do. You need some folk that you can talk to, pray with, fuss with, and then get up and keep on going, Glad to have with me one of my daughters in the ministry also, Reverend Dinah Tatman. she uses my name because I pastor West Side, but it's really her stuff. And so I appreciate it. I get a chance to tag along with her on some of the stuff she's doing. A tremendously gifted woman in the area of finance and economics. A good connection for you to make. All right. Just want you to hear that. If you have your Bibles with you, I would encourage you to turn with me to Proverbs 22, verse 7. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. The Message Bible says it this way: the poor are always ruled over by the rich. So don't borrow and put yourself under their power. I want to talk about debt-free living. Debt-free living. And I'm going to have some stuff up on the screen if you want to take notes. I think you might be blessed by some of this. It's not original with me. You can see it is by Dr. DeForest Soaries, otherwise known as Buster Soaries. He's a black pastor in the state of Maryland who also happened to have run for and became Secretary of State for the state of Maryland. He is a brilliant brother, and he has written a book. It's entitled Say Yes to No Debt. 12 Steps to Financial Freedom. And I want to encourage everybody to get this book. Everybody. But not only this book, but there's a workbook that goes with it. You want to get the workbook, D-Free Lifestyle, 12 Steps to Financial Freedom. Say yes to no debt. Because getting this without this is like having your cornflake but no milk. Okay? They kind of go together, you know. And I want to encourage you because you can read through this and you can agree with all the stuff that's in here and you can nod your head. When you go through this, your life's going to be changed. I'm serious as a heart attack. I had one of the brothers in my church say to me, he's 83 years old, retired long time, doing all right for himself. He decided he's been just one of my wonderful supporters all along, great deacon, the chairman of deacons twice. He said to me, Pastor, I should have heard this 30 years ago. Because the stuff that he talked about in here literally transformed his life. In fact, my wife and I will be, by December of this year, completely debt-free. No house, no car, no nothing. Are y'all hearing me? Completely debt-free. My bill is going to be the light bill. That's it. You understand? And so, I can't make the case strongly enough that you need to do this. I took a class through this at the church just recently, and as I did, they heard it, and some quit halfway through because this demands change. When you read it, if you don't want to change, this is not what you want. If you're sick and tired of being behind the gun all the time, this is what you want. If you want to advance in your ability to have money, save money, and even having spending power, this is what you want. If you want to be able to tithe, and you haven't been able to because you make $100 but you spend it $110, this is what you want. myself, and I'm going to back up now and start doing this step by step. My wife's looking at me like, what's he doing? Okay. Pray with me. Father, in the name of Jesus, we ask that you will speak to us through this time, through this word, that you will be honored and you will be glorified. God, we love you. We give you praise. And we thank you for this word. And we ask it all, oh God, in the name of Jesus. Change someone, deliver someone, completely rearrange their thinking tonight. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. About 12 years or so ago, Reverend Tapman and I were talking about economic freedom and the like, and she was working at the church on staff at that point. And she had some chains made. And I said, I'm going to wear those chains. One went around here. One went on each wrist. One was around my waist. And one on each of my ankles. It was Black History Month. And for a month, every Sunday in the pulpit, when I came to the pulpit, I came with chains on. Because we have been freed from our physical bondage, but we are still enslaved by our economic bondage. And the vast majority of us in the African American community cannot see our way clear as to how we're going to make it from month to month, from week to week, much less talk about retirement. We find ourselves locked in and we don't know which way to go. And it is a tremendously difficult situation we find ourselves in. Our people were in a darkness when they were in slavery. We're there again. There's some who've been hit by the disappearance of their financial cushion by chronic illness. Some by unanticipated hospital bills. Some have been freewheeling and living large and have spent everything they had, forgetting the economic woes of the past and completely ignoring the needs of the future. Anybody remember in 2008 when the market crashed? There were people who had worked for years and thought everything was set, and suddenly we had people who went back to work after retiring. One lady had worked for TWA for 45 years. She had no other job her entire life. High school on, that's where she was. At 70 years old, because certain things were not put in place to guard what she had to go back to work because it messed up everything she had. And we keep living as if everything is all right and it's going to be all right no matter what. With an uncertain future and an even more uncertain resident in the White House. I thought it was a good time to talk money, knowing that though we cannot plan the future, we can and must be prepared for whatever is yet to come. The people of God and the church itself must invest in its future, and we cannot do it while drowning in our own personal debt. In his stellar book on the subject, Say Yes to No Debt, 12 Steps to Financial Freedom, Dr. DeForest B. Soares Jr. has done a remarkable job of walking us through some very practical steps toward economic freedom. For some people, this will not be as relevant to you as it might be for others. But if you as a church family will follow the steps that has been outlined, you will be able to see the economic fortunes of some people who have struggled for a long time turn around, and as a result, their future and the future of the church will be brighter as well. This message is based upon this book extensively, and I'm quoting from him extensively, so I just thought I'd let you know ahead of time. We're growing. He says, even after our most recent economic downturn, we persist in growing our consumer consumer debt in the U.S. grew nearly 5 times in size from 1980, from $355 billion to 2001, 1.7 trillion. As of October 2014, consumer debt totaled $3.23 trillion. That's from 1980 on, y'all. That's 10 times. Do y'all see that? The average household in December 2014 carried how much? In credit card debt. Now you got to understand that they do credit cards to trap you. They start you off sometime with 0% interest. But if you are not careful, if you are 1 day late, they can move the needle and never tell you that you are no longer paying 0% interest. You are paying 24 or 32% interest. And the same money that you were paying before takes you nowhere except paying for interest. Are you listening? According to U.S. Census Bureau, by December 2013, 133 million households in the U.S. had $875 billion in revolving credit. That's primarily credit cards. Whatever happened to will card? Layaway. See, we have this instant gratification mentality. I have to have it, and I have to have it now. Rather than saving, we simply spend. According to the Federal Reserve in 2014, 71% of Americans have credit cards. 33% have 1 to 2. 18% have 3 to 4. 9% have 5 to 6. 7% have 7 credit cards or more. According to the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, 7% of Americans were rejected for a new credit card in 2014, up for 4% in up from 4% in 2011. Now, why do you think they were rejected? They can't qualify anymore. They messed up too bad. Switch. We there? Statistics show that 24% of Americans acknowledge that they weren't paying all their bills on time. And 24% also report having no savings at all. None, not a zip. What happens when the washing machine breaks? What happens when you need a new battery for the car? I ain't talking about buying a new car, I'm just talking about a battery. Or the tires blow out. I mean, practical things that do happen. And there is no emergency, there's no backup, there is absolutely nothing left. What do? Pull out a card, and we just make the thing worse. We are in trouble. We think that our situation is normal. We think we are supposed to be in debt. That's probably why Americans now have more than $2 trillion worth of consumer debt. $2 trillion. Credit card debt. Next. Here's our problem is not just a financial problem, but it is a spiritual problem that has a spiritual solution. If people are going to be free, then they have to have a biblical perspective concerning money. The world has a different perspective than the Lord and His church. That is why our text is certainly not to another man. You serve the Lord and him alone. And you have to understand that. Next. With this in mind, Dr. Soares has launched what he calls the D-Free movement. D-Free, that's what we have to do as well. We need to be D-Free, debt-free, if we're going to make an impact for the Lord. Expand our use of our buildings and reach St. Louis for Jesus Christ. We aren't here to simply have a good time in worship on Sunday. We're here to fulfill an assignment given to us by our Lord. But you can't focus on reaching others and you're financially crippled at the same time. You can't expand ministries and change a community and you're distracted by devastating debt. That's why we need a strategy to get people out of the people of God out of debt. There are people who have wanted to tithe, but have confided to me that they have so much debt they cannot tithe. In fact, they can't do anything except try and often fail to pay their household bills. For them, every situation is a major calamity. Every time an appliance goes out, they panic because there's no money to get it fixed or get another one. No rainy day fund, no savings, no retirement account, no to everything that would be of help to them in the future. Dr. Soares poses this situation. Imagine if Visa or MasterCard sent me the following letter. Dear Mr. Soares, we're pleased to send you a brand new credit card. It's still going to carry platinum privileges, but we're changing the name from platinum to slave. We know you'll enjoy using your new slave card. The best card you can have. Slave. How many of y'all want that card? But the borrower is the slave. Come on now. How many people will get excited about having, I got a slave card in my pocket? Financial institutions don't send us slave cards, they send out gold or platinum cards. They wouldn't use the name slave in any reference because we would be offended by that kind of in-your-face offensive language. But we proudly whip out our gold card and hand it over to the cashier as if we're extra special instead of especially enslaved. So then the first step for getting out of slavery must be identifying the reality of our condition. We must acknowledge that the truth of Proverbs applies to us. Next, the borrower is servant to the lender. The word translated servant can also be translated slave. And the reality of our condition is that we are servants or slaves to our lenders. Now, how can you admit this? Because this is the beginning of your journey toward freedom. You have to. You have to understand where you are on this journey. Our young people get these cards sent to them when they're seniors in high school, when they turn sometimes 17 and a half, sometimes 18. When they first get to campus, they are so excited to have someone to send them a credit card and don't realize they have to pay the thing back. When I was doing this many years ago, I've done about 3 or 4 different times, I've done series on this, on getting out of debt. And one brother came to our church, he was visiting from out of town. Found out he was a pastor visiting a cousin, I think. And he sat there and he looked like he was mad at me the whole time. I said, he don't think I'm preaching at all. He hates what I'm saying. And afterwards he came up to see me. He said, Reverend, thank you. He said, because I know this is true. He said, I have a son. And he is in $80,000 of credit card debt. And his cousin who was there in church said, no, that's his student loans you're talking about. He said, I know what I'm saying. He's in $80,000 worth of credit card debt. He was a junior in college. not unusual, and you pay what they tell you to pay, which is the minimum, it will take you 27 years and 6 months to pay off a $3,000 indebtedness. And the amount of money you paid by this time is way beyond anything you ever imagined. Because Einstein said one of the greatest forces in the whole universe is compound interest. Because that thing will eat you alive. There's something called the rule of 72. Every 72 cycles, when that money goes around, it just moves forward at such an accelerated rate that most people don't even realize what's happening. Now, it can work for you if you're saving, but it can work tremendously against you if you're not. Are y'all listening to me? So you have to identify, I think you had me. You have to identify and vigilantly monitor the 3 core components of financial enslavement: debt, delinquency, and deficit. You there? We're together. All right. These 3 elements often serve as barometers of an individual's or a family's financial health. If we're going to develop our household wealth or be able to pass anything on to the next generation, then we have to deal with our next household debt. That's the first thing you got to deal with. Go on. According to the Federal Reserve Board, about 1/3 of lower income families spend more than 40% of their income on debt repayment. 40%. Compared to 20% for moderate income households and 14% for middle income families. My friends, you can't save or move up the economic ladder with a mountain of debt hanging over your head. The more your income is consumed by debt, the more you must borrow to pay for essentials such as food, mortgage or rent, utilities, and transportation. Please don't go to McDonald's with a credit card. If you got to charge a hamburger, you need to be hungry for a while. Amen, because you can't afford it. Praise Pastor. Amen. Each month digs the hole deeper, making it harder but not impossible to climb out of the hole and stand on solid ground. Next. Another snare is delinquency, which comes when we cannot pay our bills on time. Late payments lower our credit scores. Say that out loud. Late payments lower our credit scores, which in turn can cause us to pay higher interest rates. It also incurs late fees. So the hole of debt keeps getting deeper and deeper. We have to make a commitment to pay all of our bills on time. Did you get that? Have to make a commitment to pay all of our bills when? Next, the third area is deficit living. That is, we are living above our means. To be free of deficit living means we live within our means and eliminate the need to close our spending gaps by using high interest credit cards or even worse, alternative financial services such as payday loans, pawn shops, and rent-to-own schemes. Do you know that these people will charge you 300 to 400% interest? And it is legal. Now, the banks can't do that. So they go through a back door and use the payday loan people. Where do you think they get their money? can't be free or debt-free. You've got to be debt-free, delinquency-free, deficit-free. You can't do deficit spending. You cannot use your credit card to pay your bills. You get in a deeper hole. You don't get out of debt. I hope y'all can hear me. So then what is the practical strategy for achieving this goal next? First, you have to admit that you are a slave. Your position of being a borrower and not a lender has put you in that condition. Debt, delinquency, and deficit are the culprits that have to be ejected from our lives if we're going to have true freedom. It's not coming any other way. But freedom seems to be an elusive thing because we have neither examined nor assessed our beliefs about money and our relationship to it. The sad truth is that we have been culturally conditioned to never have enough of anything. The marketing, spinning, selling, and incentivizing of things we don't need, but now have to have, has taken us to a new low of greed and cultural deprivation. How many of y'all got an iWatch? Come on now. Nobody? How about an iPhone? How about a Samsung? Anybody remember when nobody had a cell phone? Anybody remember when it was black and the cord was about this long and it sat in the corner? And then you got a princess phone. You could go around the house and it had them cords that would get all tangled up. Anybody remember anything like that? We thought we were something then we had a princess phone. You still got yours. Lord have mercy. No, I'm sorry. There are things that we never had to have that now we have to have. But it's never been so before. And we put ourselves in such a position where we don't know the difference between our needs and our wants. We just want stuff. We don't need it. Because most of us have more clothes than we know what to do with. We get to the closet like this and have to iron it before we can put it on. Even after it just came from the cleaners. Because we have so much stuff. Some of us have storage bins. Because we got more stuff than we can have in our house or our apartment. So we got to go rent another place for stuff that we never see. Talk to me. Say amen, say ouch. We think we have to have. And when Dr. Soros uses this book, he makes you deal with this over and over again. And you keep trying to figure out why is he so redundant. It's because you got to change 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years of habits. And that doesn't happen overnight. I've been doing it the same way all of my life. How dare you tell me this is not correct? How dare you say that I'm not good and responsible? And it's really difficult for people who have a lot of intelligence or a lot of education. Because you then say, you can't tell me I'm an intelligent person. I know how to handle my money. But how many of you are like me? In my generation, I'm first generation high school graduate. My mom and daddy didn't have nothing to teach me as it relates to finances. They worked hard, they paid the bills. But as far as talking about what we're talking about today, that was a different world. Are y'all listening to me? They weren't talking about what the stock market is doing or what a 401k was doing or You know, when we were kids, we would go, entertainment for us was going to look at other people's houses on Sunday. We'd go for a drive to see how the other people were living. And they weren't rich, they were just middle class, but we weren't middle class, so they looked rich to us. Are y'all listening to me? And so there was nobody to tell us how to get there. And so here we are. And most of us have never been taught, so we can't teach our children because we haven't been taught ourselves. At some point, this has to end. At some point, we've got to be able to tell the next generation, no, that's not the right way to do it. This is the right way. Let me help you. And be able to then leave a legacy for our children and our children's children. I had a brother in our church. He had a sign in the back of his car. He said, I'm spending my grandchildren's inheritance. And was proud of it. He drove his big fine cars. He did everything he wanted to do. But he let them know, I ain't leaving you nothing. Isn't that a good thing to be able to help the next generation? To be able to bless somebody behind you? Why does everybody have to start from the bottom? Can't somebody stand on somebody's shoulders and get beyond where we got? I want my children to go beyond. I want them to achieve greater things and be greater, don't you? I want them to be blessed. I want to be a blessing to them so they can get to that next place. There's so much marketing and spinning and selling and incentivizing now that people have changed the way they think. It's taken us to a new low of greed and cultural deprivation. Those who experienced the Great Depression of the 30s learned to save their monies and prepare for a rainy day. They got it in a can, they got it in a mattress, they saved their money. They always had a stash someplace for fear of the same thing happening to them in the future as it did in the past. The banks failed. They say, you won't do it again. Yes, they did. But those who have survived the Great Recession of a decade ago have shown no desire to rethink how we use our monies. Our cultural acceptance of debt has resulted in bad credit, car repossessions, denied credit applications, canceled credit cards, and a desperate marginality in the quality of our lives. Dr. Soares asked us to examine the cultural messages regarding money, connect the dots to our own perceptions and habits, and then chart a course for change. It may be a bit painful, but listen to the conversation between our culture and your mind. The first message that you need to deal with is the one that says, you are what you buy. Click. Another word for it is this, compensatory spending. Click. That's the spending that seeks to compensate for a sense of unworthiness and thereby seeks to gain significance. Simply put, we become consumers who are trying to compensate for our weaknesses, insecurities, and deficits and perceived, it should be. We define ourselves, create and identify and express our feelings by what we wear and drive, where we work and shop, even where we go to church. And so all of those things, we're trying to make ourselves feel like we're somebody. Do you know your stuff can't make you feel like nobody? Because you're going to leave all that stuff behind. So to compensate for all the negative messages that we have received, we buy things. I heard someone call it retail therapy. Oh, if my friends could see me now, I'll show them my my spouse does not affirm me, if my girlfriend does not encourage me, if my teacher does not believe in me, if my family does not support me, then I will find a way to get what I need without them. We will spend money to gain a feeling of significance that we fail to have in our relationships. So if nobody affirms me, then I'll affirm myself. I say if you got to have retail therapy, you need a new therapist. Fire that one. Advertisers tell us that we need their product in order to have significance and success, as if our personal significance is enhanced by purchasing and using a particular product. And so we put ourselves in deeper debt and deeper in slavery by buying new clothes when we already have a closet full of nice clothes, by buying the latest sports car when our 5-year-old sedan runs just fine. I really do like that Tesla. I'm sorry, I digress. Compensatory spending will make you feel good about yourself for a minute, but you wind up in debt trying to please people who don't like you and will probably like you less when you get all your stuff. Who you think you are? Who you think he is? Who she thinks she is? That new car, come ride by my house. If we step back and look at this problem and become honest with ourselves, we soon realize that what we really need, money cannot buy. A love song that Dionne Warwick recorded years ago said, "A house is not a home." You see, money can buy a house, but money can't buy a home. Money can buy medicine, but money can't make us healthy. Money can pay for fun, but money cannot give us joy. Money allows us to travel, but it cannot secure our eternal destination. Money allows us to buy as many books as we want, but money can't make us intelligent. Money can buy sex, but money can't buy love. Money can buy food, but money can't buy the intimacy of breaking bread with another human being. We do this compensatory spending to help us along the way, to level the playing field of life. People and events beyond our control pull us down, so we buy things to make us feel better, to replace our loss. But the things we really need in life, money cannot buy. There's a God-shaped vacuum within all of us. And the only one who can fill it up is God. Not money, not houses or lands, not bling, not things. Only God can fill in the empty places in your life. He knows all about your weaknesses, all about your trials and tribulations. You really want to have your life changed. Try the Lord. Click. The second kind of spending is called conspicuous spending. It could more commonly be called fake it till you make it. This type of spending attempts to purchase social status by looking the part, dressing the part, driving the part, and living in the part of someone who is already wildly successful and ridiculously wealthy. This mindset pervades our culture today through the ubiquitous presence of designer brands. When faced with the choice between two white shirts, identical in fabric and construction, the conspicuous consumer pays $50 more for the one that shouts from the mouth of a tiny polo player, alligator, eagle, swoosh, stripe, or star, "I'm successful and have good taste. Look at me." And all the folk did was put a little logo on the pocket. Don't believe me? Travel to Hong Kong. You go to Hong Kong, you can get anything you want. You don't like that one? They'll make a different one for you. Look just like the other one. Make it just specialized just for you. I remember going there when Adidas was really big. We got them for $10. They were $80 and $90 and $100 here. $10. All the boys got Adidas. $10 each. Same shoe. You bring it over here and you say, "It's Adidas. $90. admission into believing our social status is achieved by spending money on items that cost more than they should.
Right.
Buying into this mind game keeps us in financial slavery. We can't make it if all we do is think it. We think we're in control of our money, but our psychological dependence and emotionally motivated expenditures reveal just the contrary. Our money is controlling us. Right? So we have compensatory spending for the purpose of gaining significance, conspicuous spending for the purpose of elevating and flaunting status, click. Finally, we have confused spending. Those purchases which we make without stopping to think, analyze, or assess the cost, benefit of what we're actually getting for our money. Our confusion is based upon a few different reasons. There are some people who are uninformed and make poor choices in their spending. There are some people who haven't done their homework and compared their prices. Then there's a third set of confused spenders who just don't care. Each of these categories can lead to poor choices. It has been suggested that consumer confusion is the only reason that a company like Starbucks can become so popular. With people being so enamored with it and others being addicted to it, when the coffee is $4.50 a cup or more. In fact, when I first heard of Starbucks, I thought people were crazy to spend that much money for water that had poured beans, water had been poured over some coffee beans. I said, what? They said, y'all have Starbucks in your town? I said, no. And they told me all about it. I said, how much is it? They told me. Lo and behold, I find myself going there too. I think we all need some change back from our purchase. It takes a strong commitment to wise spending and an ability to see beyond the present moment to clarify the confusion clouding a potential purchase. Delayed gratification is an important concept for us today. That means that you will determine to drink tap water instead of buying a bottle of water every time you want to drink. You sit in your house and you get the bottle of water and there's a tap sitting right there and ice cubes. What's wrong with that picture? Y'all do know that bottled water costs more than gasoline. Just add it up. It costs more to get bottled water than gasoline for your car. It's crazy. And please don't be in a hotel. They're going to start at $3 or $4 for a bottle of water. And there's a tap right there and we get the bottled water, come on now, for $4 or $5, as if the city hadn't done anything to purify the water. Preach, Pastor.
Preach.
So it means planning ahead and having snacks in the car on that road trip, Sister Bobo. She always does. It means making a commitment to yourself and your freedom never to make an impulse purchase at the checkout line. Because they put just what you want right there at checkout. I love Snickers. There they are, right there. Huh? No exceptions. You gotta no impulse spending. Plan your spending. Stick to the plan. Say that. Plan your spending. Stick to the plan. Now, the only way to get out of the debt crisis that we're in is to gather together the details of your financial life and track where it all goes. For this is where it hurts your feelings. Because when you start looking at everything you do in 1 month, it's going to hurt your feelings. Because most of us are spending money we didn't realize we were spending. And some of us are spending more than we have, and we're floating from month to month because we're using cards and the stuff goes to the bank at one time and we don't have to see it and it doesn't go down too low, and we don't have enough money to really make it work. potential spending leaks, where all the places are where money is going out and you don't realize it. A total monthly income and what you spend all your stuff on, all the categories. Housing, rent or mortgage, property insurance, home maintenance, groceries, work, school lunches, cleaning supplies, grooming supplies, toiletries, hair care, child support, alimony, clothing. They don't leave nothing out. So that by the time you get to the end of this thing and you realize how much money is going out, how much you have coming in, you are looking at this and saying, what in the world did I do? We'll answer questions later. And so you'll be able to know where the hemorrhaging is coming from. Is it your daily Starbucks or your fast food lunches? Is it your impulsive nature that doesn't like to slow down, or even a combination of two or even the three things mentioned here? Because if you spend $5 a day at Starbucks, in 1 week, that's $25. You do that 4 weeks, which is a month, you've spent $100. If you do that all year long, you spent $1,200 just on coffee. Nothing else. You're wondering where your money's going? It's right there, $1,200 right there. And though this is an overview of spending habits and how many people have gotten into debt, not everyone is guilty of this. Many people lost their jobs, and while unemployed, relied on credit cards and other types of borrowing just to make ends meet. Others had health challenges that caused the bills for doctors, medicines, tests, hospital visits to pile up. Others borrowed money to pay for college, thinking education would qualify them for jobs that would enable them to repay their loans. And then there are those whose marriage ended in divorce, and they ended up with being responsible for the debt of their former spouse. The point is that living in debt is too stressful and damaging to accept as a lifestyle. You've got to make up your mind, no matter how it happened. And different things happen to different people. You've got to make up your mind you don't want it. The old spiritual, old freedom inspires us with his passionate words. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free. Say yes to no debt. God can and God will help you to break the chains that have had you bound. That's one of the chief reasons that Jesus came to earth, to set the captives free. Your slavery has gone on for too long. The Lord Jesus has power enough to break every chain if you let him. His death and resurrection proved it. For he or she whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Amen. Are there any questions that I can try to answer? Yes, sir.
What about the stock market? Can you tell me like any information on the stock market? Like how should I invest and what should I be looking for? When to invest?
I want to encourage you to go to a stockbroker and or financial advisor who is a professional in that area because it is very complicated for just a layperson to try to explain it all.
Okay. Thank you.
Some great money can be made from them. I blew a couple of extraordinary opportunities because I travel around the world. God shows me stuff. 2008, 9, I was traveling. Everything was crashing in America. I was in India. When I went there, they told me they were going to pick me up in what they call a Tata Sumo. I thought it was a typographical error. I thought it meant a Toyota something. And I got there, and there was this SUV, very lovely SUV. It was made by a company named Tata, T-A-T-A. Most people in America never heard of a Tata. I had not. As the week went on, I started watching how many cars were made by Tata. And almost 90% or more of the 18-wheelers yourself. So I was supposed to ask somebody beside me. Because it was like that. But as I go around the world, I watch for stuff. I mean, most people in America don't recognize that we are now in a global economy, not a national economy. And as a result, there are things outside of this country that are growing faster than they are in the USA. Like one of the richest men in the world, a billionaire, is from Nigeria. His name is Dangote. If you listen to BBC or CNN World, you will hear he sponsors the news on there many times. Black man. He's doing infrastructure throughout all of Africa. But see, we're so locked into USA, we don't even realize there's a whole world out there. And that the world is growing rapidly. By 2050, they say that Nigeria will probably be as large, if not larger, than the USA. It's a powerhouse. It's the biggest nation in Africa. I think it's 160 million right now. So, you have to, if you're going to invest, you have to begin to think globally, not just locally. So, you may miss part of my long explanation, but get the tape. No. Any other questions that I can't answer? Yes. 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 We did a class. I'm going to do a class again, 2 classes in the fall, one for young adults. I'm glad to see a young couple here because you don't have to wait 30 years before you say, man, I wish I had it done. You can do it now. That changes the landscape for you. Most people don't know that because of the rule of 72, if you start investing at 18 years old, I think like $2,000 a year, by the time you get to 28, you don't have to invest anymore. You're a millionaire at retirement. But most people at 18 don't have any money, so they can't take advantage of it. But that's the way it works. Yeah. You can go online, Amazon.com. You can get both of them on Amazon.com. I think Barnes & Noble's had them, I'm not sure. Or you can look up Dr. Soares online and go to his church, call there, because the number and everything's online, and it will, they have books they can send in bulk even to your church and things of that nature. There's a website also. There are YouTube videos that they have on here. He has done this because he wants to see the African American community out of debt. And so he's really worked hard to try to make this thing accessible to everybody. Let me see if I can find his website right quick. Maybe if I put my glasses on, that'll help. Just put "say yes to no debt." It's going to come up if you Google that. I think I dropped my glasses. issue is that most people don't have their mind made up. Anybody ever tried to lose weight in your life? Anybody know that most people who've ever struggled with weight already know what to do? It's not that we don't know what to do. He's doing it. And so that's why I said he layers this, because you have to change the way you think. When you change the way you think, then you can make the thing happen. But until you're what Joyce Meyer calls stinking thinking, until the stinking thinking changes, it's never going to happen. And we're locked into that. mydfree.org, mydfree.org, mydfree.org. And that's his website, and that'll give you to other links and YouTube videos and all sorts of things of that nature. I want to encourage you, if you can, follow up on this. This will bless you. It's 3 tiers. The first part talks about getting out of debt. The next part deals with how you invest after you get out of debt. We had a day in which we had, through our social justice ministry, we had financial planner, realtor, insurance people. We had all different types of people to come in to talk to us about the various things that are needed as a part of getting yourself to a new place. Because most people don't think it through. Most people don't have a will. And everybody, because we're all in denial, nobody wants to talk about death. But it's going to come. It's just that we don't want to deal with it. And so getting our wills in place, our trusts in place, because all those things are important. Who is your power of attorney in case something happens to you? When those 12 people, 13 people, 12 boys and a leader went in a cave in Thailand, do you think they had any idea they would have run into what they ran into? Of course not. I mean, life is not so predictable. Anybody been in a car accident and you said you saw your life flash before your eyes? You thought life was over just that quickly. Things do change, but we're not prepared.
Right.
But it doesn't make sense. If you have property, you have children, grandchildren, you want to be able to leave things in certain order. And I'm going to be finished because I'm probably on somebody else's territory at this point. But a few years ago, when I was in my first church, several years ago, the lady there, she lost her mom. I was with her at the hospital where her mom died. Went back home with her to her home. She's trying to get her stuff together, papers together, and she couldn't find her mother's insurance policy. She could not find it, and she was just going around the room, just saying, I don't know what to do. I can't find my mother's policy, and I got to talk to the people in the funeral home, and she was just crying, and she was just weeping. It was in her hand. Somebody said, what's in your hand? She had it in her hand, but her state of mind was of such nature, she couldn't even focus. Now, do that to a person where you have no insurance. And how often do our churches have to turn around and help people to bury their mama and their daddy and whoever? And the church don't have it. You got to take up an offering to try to help people. Why you put your people in that kind of position where they're embarrassed? They can't put mama away because mama didn't take care of mama. And nobody else did either. Why put people in that kind of situation? When I marry young couples even, I tell them, you need to, and they don't like to hear this, is not the kind of stuff you want to hear when you get married. I said, you need to have 5 to 10 years worth of income from your spouse's income, any insurance, worth of insurance. They said, what? I said, 5 to 10 years. I said, it's bad enough to lose your loved one. But suppose you and your wife or your husband just bought a house too, and you have children that you want to put through college, and you got 2 car then suddenly only one income is there. What do you think happens? One, I'm either losing the house or I got to move. So in the middle of my grief, I got to pick up and leave everything and move. The kids' school, we got to leave that. Everything that is normal for everybody in the family is gone. It's bad enough that I lost you. And then you're going to turn around and put me in a position where I can't even stay in the house that we built. Are y'all hearing me?
Amen.
This is a hard reality. And it happens all the time because we don't think this thing through. That's the kind of stuff that we try. So you deal with getting out of debt, then you make preparations for your future, and then you learn how to give back. Pay it forward, help somebody else, be a blessing. But if you're in debt, you can't do the rest of that stuff. So you got, first things first. First you got to get out of the mess. You got to take seriously where you are. Then you can do something extraordinary for yourself and for your family. I hope this helps somebody.
Amen.
Brother Pastor, whatever, say, where you at? I'm done. Stick a fork in me.
Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for our speaker. I hope that you have gotten some insight. And listen to this, and I mean no disrespect to anyone. Some of the things that he was saying is not anything that you did not know. So not only did you hear something, you learned something, but how many of us have already known this, but we are such in debt and we are on a downward spiral. We are the dog chasing its tail to where you feel like there is no way out of your situation. You're going to continue to do because we are people of habit, and we're going to continue to do what we've always done because that's all we know how to do. My people are destroyed because of a lack of knowledge. I want to bring out a few things. The whole purpose of this conference is to educate us on where we are. And I want you to see some of these principles that Dr. Bobo was speaking of when he talked about the grandfather who had the sticker on his car saying that I am spending my children's or my grandchildren's inheritance. Please turn very quickly. I just want you to see some of these things because I don't ever want you to say what Pastor Adams said or Pastor Bobo said or Bishop. If God didn't say it, I don't have to either. But if God does say it, then I'm going to repeat it as often as I can. Proverbs chapter 13, verse 22. Proverbs 13, verse 22. And it says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Also, go to John chapter 3, or excuse me, 3 John, I'm sorry, 3 John. There's only one chapter there. Verse 2. Beloved, I wish above all things. Listen to this statement that God is making. Beloved, I wish above all things that thou may prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prosper. God didn't say, now understand here, because here is twofold, salvation and prosperity wrapped into one. I wish above all things, not for you to speak in tongues, not for you to lay hands on the sick, not for you to raise the dead, not for you to give sight. I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in health as your soul. So one is dependent upon the other. Now, Jerusalem have heard this time and time again because this is not anything new. Many of us are asking God for prosperity. We're asking God to be rich when our souls are poor. God says, I will not make you rich with your soul being poor, not if you are my child. Brothers and sisters, remember the Lord your God. Deuteronomy chapter 8. Remember the Lord your God, because it is He who has given you the power to get wealth, so that the covenant may be established. Young man just left out of the building, came looking for money. I need money. He said, I'm getting ready to start a job I haven't worked in 11 years, and I need a bus pass to get back and forth to work. I will bring you the money back. I don't know what this man truly intends to do, but I told him, well, if you look in here, we're teaching about finances. I would love to help you. And then I remember the scripture, what good does it do for us to tell someone who comes in and says, I'm hungry, and we say, go and be fed and be filled. I went into my pocket, gave him every dime that I had in my pocket. I said, now, what good is it for God to bless you and then for you to go and bless Satan? Tuesday night is our Bible study, and Sunday when I said, what church do you attend? He said, I attend such and such church. I said, well, did you talk to your pastor of your church about the need that you have? He said, well, I ain't been there in 4 years. I said, well, then you don't attend church. Stop trying to play God. God is not to be played with. This is a serious thing that we're dealing with. Also, we're talking about generational wealth. Pastor said his mother and his father and so on. None of us understood generational wealth. But did you know that more generational wealth is left in the United States from an insurance policy than any other way? But how many of us have an insurance policy that will at least give you 5 to 10 years worth of income from your spouse? How many of us in here has an insurance policy to where it will cover that? Because if not, let me tell you what a young man told me that caused me to get right with my insurance policy. He said, you love your wife? Absolutely. You wouldn't ask me that kind of question unless you expected me to, and especially if you asked me in front of her. Do you love your wife? Absolutely. Do you love your children? Yes. Do you want to do this? Yes. He said, well, do you realize, are you a jealous man? I said, yes, I am. And I don't have no problem saying it because I want to be like God. God is a jealous God. He's a jealous God, I'm a jealous man. He said, well, do you realize that if you die, you have just pimped your wife out to marry another man? Hold on, don't talk to me like that and tell me what I done did to my wife. He said, well, you got this house, right? And you have these 4 children. Is your wife working enough to where when you die, she can cover your income? No, then what do you think you have just caused her to do except to find somebody to replace you? But if you set her up financially to where she can replace your income without having to replace you, she can still live as if you are alive. Jerusalem, brothers and sisters, we have done an injustice to our families. GoFundMe is not your funeral expense. That is not your insurance policy. Tomorrow, I contacted again on today the insurance agent as well as the securities. We're going to have all of that. After it's being taught to you, you will have the application and the practicality to be able to do everything that you need to do. The people will be here to give you everything that you need to make sure that our people, God's people, are satisfied. I never understood, I never looked at that credit card as a slave card. And now, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. With that knowledge, when you hear in the news about the upper middle class, or once you get into the high class, the middle class stops at $250,000. So they're telling you that at $50,000 you're in the middle class. Here is, let's say at his height, this is where upper class starts. This is where your upper class starts. Down here, from 0 to 250,000 is the span width of his height. So somewhere around here would be your 24,000. So this here is low class. And they will tell you that if you make 50,000, that you are in the middle class. So let's take your 50,000 and put it right here. How many of you all think from here to here is a representation of middle class? At 50,000, you're not middle class, you're still low class. But if you knew you were low class, you would do something about it. In reality, middle class would be approximately 125,000. But if you strive for that, that will put you in a place where now you can do damage to them. So who's who in the zoo? And if you want to have a seat at the table, the Bible says, wine makes merry. Food was made for laughter, but money answers all things. When you can answer your own problems, and you don't have to go to the government, then now you've taken away the power of the government. I love what the young lady did when she said, listen, I told my wife, it doesn't make sense for us to go and burn down the buildings. It doesn't make sense for us to go and break the windows out. They have insurance for that. And if you burn that building down, the insurance will pay them their daily rate of what they were supposed to get. So all you did was give them a vacation. And the only people who are going to suffer are the workers, because they won't get paid. The owner has still gotten paid. And the only people who work in our community is us. The only people we have hurt is us. Don't go to the mills and protest. Go to the Galleria. Go to West County. Because there was no longer no justice, no peace. There was no profit, no peace. And that's where the change began. We need to know what we are doing. I had the meeting on yesterday, and I am grateful to tell you what we are working towards in regards to the final day on Friday is looking into building, buying, establishing a bank or a credit union. I spoke with Dr. Bobo. How many of you all know Westside have had a credit union for 44 years? And he said, Pastor, what is your end game? The end game is to empower our people in our community. He said, let's partner together. It doesn't have to be called whatever. The name doesn't matter. But we can change it to FUBU. Because that's what it means, for us, by us. We won't have to go to a bank. I'm appreciative of this young man here. He is one of the management at the U.S. Bank that we have our account at for over 20 years. And he told me, he said, brother, I want to do all that I can to help and assist. And he helped to make phone calls. And when we finally got a hold of U.S. Bank and told them that we were building a community center and a youth church, and they said that they would give us 3 cases of water for our building. We asked for drywall and lumber and nails and hammers, and they were going to give us water. We've been investing $72,000 for the last 20 years to get $9. Not anymore. My regular account, my business account, and my church account, as soon as it's open, will go into our account. We will circulate the dollar in our own community. Now, I'm just saying, we already got someone who knows banking. He don't have to work at a place that does not value him to his potential. Let us, God says, I will make you the head and not the tail, above and not beneath, the lender and not the borrower. Church, how can you be the lender when you are not a bank? There is power in the dollar. But why are we going to other banks asking to borrow our money that they are going to take, invest it, triple it, quadruple it, and then put it back in their community and tell us no? But we put more money into the economy than any other race in the United States. We outspend everybody, but it never stays in our community. When Mr. Sterling had the supermarket in Dayton, we would rather go to Aldi, Save-A-Lot, Shop and Save, instead of going to our own. We can buy the same grease, rice, pork, beef, and we can fry our own rice. All you have to do is get the ingredients and learn how to do it. How come we can't have our own Chinese restaurant? They sell the fried chicken. The Jewish people have came together and put monies together to buy a whole lot of soul food restaurants. To take money out of your community and put it back into theirs, because you can't even go to what they call Jewtown and do anything in their neighborhoods. Let us, listen, let us do right. I hate it. This man is world renowned. And I hate that we have, listen to this. I sent this message out to 18 different pastors. 18 different pastors. Where are they? I asked Dr. Vogel, he said, I said, I know a lot of people are probably doing, he said, son, nobody that I know of have done this. They'll have a revival, but a financial conference to tell them, just in the church, God's idea for money, it's not being done. I talked to Evangelist Thurman for an hour and a half on Saturday. He said, you are doing something revolutionary in the church. Where's the people? This man is used to talking to thousands, but he didn't hold back to talk to 15. Never discussed any type of honorarium. Never said this will be the cost. I know what God is doing. I know what God is getting ready to do. And God says, I'm going to raise up a generation. I'm going to send laborers into the vineyard. Just continue to pray to the Lord of the harvest. Our time is up. I want to raise an offering, and considering who we have, I still know that greater is he that's with us than he that is in the world. I want to raise this offering quickly, and I believe that we are going to build each night. So what I will not do is raise this small offering, if you will, and I'm not going to tell you what God can do tonight. I bet you there's somebody in here who can pay this building off. Moses, what you got in your hand? God, I don't have nothing but this stick. Use what you got.